Welcome back, beautiful people. This is another episode of An Untold Narrative where we host creators of all different backgrounds and platforms and mediums from around the world. And today's guest is somebody who I spent some time with about a month ago in person and have really gotten to know a little bit more on a deeper level. Colin Ridgway, who is probably most known for his photography, but has done a lot of other very interesting things. And so I'm stoked to have you, Colin. Colin, how are you doing? Where are you? What's cooking?
Good man. Good. Thanks for having me first off. Currently sitting in Bushwick, Brooklyn on a lovely overcast rainy day, but that makes for beautiful football weather, so not mad about it. Doing well though, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I want to ask a pretty deep question to start.
Let's get
What
into it.
is it about photography that makes you stoked to do it? Because so many people want to do it or admire it, but
hmm
very few people actually can execute against it.
Sure. Oh God, where do we start? That's a tough question because as of late, I haven't been too stoked to do it.
Oh
And I
wow.
think
Okay.
that's a product of the current not the current climate of why people shoot. Um, as the rise of social media, as the rise of making money through social media, as the rise of the recent NFT, you know, talks, the last 2 3 years, the rise of NFTs, people say, "Oh damn, look, I can capitalize if I get into this hobby, which for most of us is a passion." But a lot of people seem to have recently taken it as an opportunity to kind of, make money off of it,
Mm.
um, by, you know, maybe not having their own style, but replicating something that they've seen work in the past. So that's why I've been kind of taking a step back recently, and it's part of my, you know, uh, journey, I guess, and trying to find that passion again. So recently, after our honeymoon, we just went to 3 weeks in Europe. That kind of revitalized me to start shooting again. So I hope we're back.
Oh wow. Okay. So would
Yeah,
you call it just burnt out from photography in general, or what was it? Just like a 6 months lapse? Was it a 3 months lapse? How do you
I'd
frame
say,
that?
yeah, I'd say almost like a year.
Oh wow.
Especially, because I started by shooting street photos, I think. It came from my love of New York City. I grew up on Long Island, and I was inspired by the OG Instagram photo people, and that's what got me, I guess into that style of photo. But then for me, I had a sales job that I hated. I commuted from Long Island into Manhattan every day, and to me, like being, having somewhat of a creative background, I guess I used to make headwear in college. Um, for me, I always wanted something tangible. And if it wasn't like a product that I made, I wanted to have a photo that I could make. And I felt like working a sales job I didn't love, fresh out of college. I'm like, all right, let me make something. And, I combined that feeling with my love for New York, and out came photos.
Wow. Okay. So this is it hasn't been a lifelong thing that you've been doing. It's pretty much post grad that you picked up a camera.
Yeah, post grad, and the first time I picked up a camera was in college, started this headwear brand, sold into like 30 shops around the world, because I was inspired by like the old like agenda uh, show days. And I
Sure.
don't know what it was because I've always been into skateboarding, surfing. And then when I kind of saw that culture intertwined with streetwear, like the OG days of streetwear, like the Crooks and Castles, the old
Yeah.
hundreds, Diamond Supply, like those days. I found out about Agenda Show,
Hmm.
and where it's like, whoa, these skaters are there. They look cool. The music fits in with what I like. And I'm like, I want to be a part of that. So with that, I'm like, all right. I like brands, back when like Supreme and like Only New York and The Quiet Life out of LA. And I was like, I kind of want to make hats. I want to figure it out. Like, I'm envious of what these guys are doing. So I ended up like finding the same manufacturer that Supreme used for their old headwear. This is when like the camp caps were popular, like those 5 panels with like the
Yep.
crazy patterns on it. I found the manufacturer. I like paid someone online for the info. They don't even have a website. I got scammed like 3 times trying to pay people for the info in like Hypebeast forums and shit. So I ended up finding it. I got there and then I made a run of hats. Long story short, long story long, I guess at this point. Um, I picked up a camera to figure out how to take product photos.
Wow.
And dude, it was so frustrating taking product photos because I wanted like the clean white background with like the natural shadow. So I'd like buy the white paper, buy like lights, and buy like, the white sidings for studio things. And I would take a million photos. And I'm like, why is the background not pure white? And then it took me like over a year to be like, oh, you have to learn Photoshop. Because you can't achieve the pure white background at a camera. You have to Photoshop, you got to cut it out, you got to layer and mask that whole thing. So that opened my mind to the power of, I guess, imagery and
Mm.
just manipulating something to make it look more elevated or, kind of manipulate it to tell the product story in that case. And then turning into like the street phase of things, like editing in like street photo style, blew my mind because you can take a regular image and turn it into like something that that people don't see and your camera doesn't even see, but you see it, and that's like kind of the
Mm.
story that you bring out of it.
I had no idea. See, this is why we have guests like
Hmm.
Colin on this show, because nobody from like the base, like front viewing social media, you would have never known that this
Hmm.
love came from actually you just trying to build a brand, like a physical product brand.
Yeah,
And just trying to make something really cool. And so I did pop on your website before this started, and I did
yeah.
notice the Sure Thing hats, and I'm like, holy shit, these backgrounds are like pure white. And it's so funny
Yeah.
that you tell this story of how you honed in that craft over time because
Hmm.
you were trying to solve this problem. And so I was going to bring up Sure Thing, and I assume that's the brand that you launched into
Yeah.
over 30 different stores. Where does that
No,
brand? Oh, it wasn't?
no, 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 this was an old
Oh,
brand called, I call it, it was called Colony. I
oh,
don't know why.
really?
It has nothing to do with my name. I wanted a word that ended in NY for New York, and that's what I came up with. That's like my like immature college brain thinking, and it was the worst. Like my first run of hats were made in China. It was. I'll send you a picture afterwards. They were the worst thing to come across. You know. Oh, they were so bad. But then then I found that manufacturer, and then I made like 10 styles of those cam caps. I like sourced the fabric, did that whole thing, and yeah, that was the brand.
So,
And then I stopped it because I realized it was corny. Like a few years after, I was like, okay, this is cringy. I'm out.
but but you had like quote unquote success. You were in retail shops.
Yeah,
How,
yeah,
like
yeah. It was cool.
talk through this. So today, right? Like everybody, like that
Mm.
world doesn't exist. You could just sell with ads on Instagram or Facebook or an Etsy shop or whatever. Like there's really no
Yep.
need to go and try to find retailers. Did you participate? Colony is such an amazing brand name. Like I don't know, I think it's dope. Like what? Talk through the process of how did you figure out and navigate that world? Because it's not your background. Like you had to just figure this shit out of like sourcing it,
Yeah,
making it, and then getting into retail. Like talk about that process.
yeah. I don't know where it like that stems from. Like growing up, I was just you know a typical like sports kid. I like knew players on every sports team. I played baseball and basketball like nonstop. No creative background in the family, really. So I don't know where it stems from, which is kind of wild. Like I have like a totally different taste in music and style as my family. Um, so I don't know where it comes from, honestly. I guess I've always wanted something tangible, and like the colony name, like the only thing I could kind of talk about to the name was like I wanted the vision was like the community thing, like colony, community, people, and that's where like Sure Thing, how Sure Thing started was like the people thing, like-minded people, outlook on the brand. So I've had always had a hard time finding fulfillment in a full-time job or any sort of work if it's not for myself. It's not like a fuck the man type of thing. It's, I understand being an employee to a company. I obviously love that. But something for me, it's I feel like if I have the capacity to be able to figure something out and make something on my own, then might as well. Because I'm I don't know if everybody has that talent or has that drive to do so. So if I have it a little bit, might as well go for it.
Yeah, no, I completely resonate with that. I think a lot of the listenership to this
Mm-hmm.
podcast actually would really resonate with that as well. And I've
For
had a lot
sure.
of artists on who, a lot of the perception of muralists and stuff like that is they just do it full time, but in actuality they do have a real job as well, like a 9 to
Mm-hmm.
5, let's call
Mm-hmm.
it. Maybe it's a little bit more, and then they paint really only in their free time. And so what I know about you is that you actually are the same, right? Like you do photography on the side, you don't do it full time, but it's probably what people know you most for. And so
Yeah.
how do you balance that in your head, creatively? Is it like you're committed and you're passionate about the job, but then you want to find spare time to pursue, photography around New York and stuff like that?
Yeah. I don't like I'm always scared of wasting time. I always want to be doing something creative and kind of selfishly for myself. Um I was never the type of guy to come home from work and sit on the couch and watch hours of TV shows. I don't have any TV shows. We watch Survivor, and I watch when Liz is watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I'm around for it, and I do partake. Um, it's not as bad as people think. Um, but to me, I'm I don't want to waste the night kind of sitting around and waking up and going to work for somebody else again. I get it. It's, you have to make a living. My thing has always been let me try to do something more than that. And then, it's a balancing act between doing that and also spending time with loved ones and friends, and how hard you want to go on things, and how well do you want to preserve relationships. Because I feel if I went full bore into building Sure Thing or building my photo stuff, I would kill it, but other things would have to suffer. And for me, I'm I don't, those other things can't suffer. So I'm
Mm,
always stuck in the weird limbo. It's I never pitch myself for photo jobs. I only pitch myself for shooting live shows for Sure Thing, and that's only because I love music. And now early 30s, I'm not really I don't have the nights we were talking earlier. I don't have the nights out like I used to. I
mm.
get, I can't deal with being all banged up all the time. So now my excuse to go shoot shows is through Sure Thing, and that's my lane to experience the music while also combining uh, photo with it.
So we'll get into Sure Thing, but
Yeah.
what you just talked about as a whole, it
Hmm.
sounds like, have you perfected your balance of life and what that means to you right now, of part-time relationships and community and friendships
Hmm.
and creative pursuits and hobbies and things like that? Are you stoked is there anything, what's wrong with Colin Ridgway's world right now? Or
Yeah.
have you figured out this really nice balance?
Yeah. I mean, the issue is I feel like my foot is always halfway into everything, and that's
Sure.
what I get bummed out about. And that kills me.
Mm,
Um, seeing photographers travel places and survive only off photo. I'm I know I can do that. I just have to, I don't know if it's trusting in myself, if it's sacrificing something, or it's do I give up on photo, not give up, or put photo to the side and perfect my relationship with either Liz or spend more time with the puppy or make more friends outside of the photo world? It's a really, really tough balancing act. So I definitely have not perfected it. If anything, I think it's the opposite,
Oh
sadly.
wow. Okay. You see, this
Yeah.
is why we ask these questions, is because like on surface level, you think it
Hmm.
sounds amazing, but then like to your point, it's like internally I struggle being halfway in on certain things, and at least you recognize that. I think that's cool because it means that you're actually probably further along than 99% of people who like don't recognize that. And it's something
Yeah,
to
we'll
work
see. I
towards.
mean, yeah, like Liz beats me up all the time. She's like, "Dude, go for it. Like you would kill it. Like you just don't network enough." I'm like, "I want to spend time with you guys, you know?" Or like I'm doing this or that. Like if something comes to me, I'll do it, you know? Um, so yeah, it's a fault of my own, but
So
you know.
you just spoke. Obviously, you speak mentioned Liz a number of times, and you mentioned your honeymoon. Like,
Hmm.
and you spent 3 weeks in Europe. You said that sort of revitalized your love for photography. Talk about some of what were the highlights in terms of photoing. Europe obviously is beautiful, but like,
Yeah.
what do you think triggered some sort of inspiration? Was it a new environment? Was it different cultures? Like,
Hmm.
what was it from like getting rejuvenated?
Yeah, exactly those two, I think. Because I mean, I've been living in New York City for I think a little over 10 years or about 10 years. What year is it now? I don't even know. Yeah, about 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I used to love New York and now I'm like about to break up with New York. Um, falling out of love. Um, so I mean, to me it's like New York's changed over the years. It's like look at Ken Ave by the water here in Brooklyn. It's like that used to be like DIY music studios, and now it is what it is. It's like the Domino Sugar Factory is now like a Hermes runway show 5 nights a week, you know? And it's like shit like that where I'm like, that's not the New York that I fell in love with. You know, it's like then you look at like 1970s, 80s photos of New York and like the graphic design on the buildings were unreal, like the storefronts. They had like this feel and like the look of people were like I don't know. It's become a bit too materialistic for me anymore, where it's like the consumerism is just out of this world. It's like the people. It's like who out there is real. Like
Mhm.
are you into that? You know, it's like I don't. Are you into that because you think you should be into that or what? It's like I feel like New York lost the character because it lost its like soul of the people in a weird way. So me and Liz going to Europe for the honeymoon, it like brought us to like I mean, it's another time. It's another world over there. And like people don't care about brand names, or at least I didn't see them really care about the brand names. Like in the Cotswolds in the south of France, it's like these people are like just living with or near people that they love. They greet each other with hugs. They make eye contact with each other. And for me, I'm like, ooh, this feels like old New York that I fell in love with initially. So I guess that's what brought it back. And then, being back in New York like the last 2 weeks, it's like I shot for the first week, like to and from work, feeling motivated. But then this past week, like nothing. And I like applied to shoot a show and I went out and shot the show on Friday night and like that helped. But then it's like that's like that's the peak. And then now we're going down to like the valley.
Mm.
Um, so we'll see. We'll see. And then the winter coming, it's like it better snow because if it doesn't snow, I'm not getting out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's so fascinating. Like what really stuck in my brain was like how simple eye contact can go, and like that's such
Hmm.
a unique observation to make. And you're right, like we do struggle here in maybe not just New York. I think in America of like intimate eye
Right.
contact and
Yeah.
what that can
Yeah.
do for like a relationship. And so that's a really fun extraction that you've recognized about it. And so as you think about falling out of love with New York, do you think about
Hmm.
moving elsewhere? Have you guys like explored the idea of what is life in the Ridgway household look like outside of New York?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're looking to venture upstate a bit, Hudson Valley type area. Because like we still have to have a city nearby and like I'm talking shit about New York and how I'm falling out of love with it, but the worst New York is better than the best next option. It's like, I don't know. Sorry for anybody in other cities. Sorry, um, but that's how I feel. um, and again, like moving upstate will be closer to my family and Liz's family. It's a nice like center ground for all of us, and it's lifestyle changes, and we're looking for a yard and whatnot. And if I'm not going to shoot street, I'm like, maybe I'll get into portraits, and like we'll see what a little portrait studio can do upstate. So maybe that's my next kind of field of photo.
Yeah, I mean, it can really expand everything. I mean, the dollar goes further. You venturing off upstate, it sounds like it might be able to provide even more of that balance and supporting, venturing into the creative aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to loop full circle back to Sure Thing, which,
Yeah.
I've admired from afar. I think it's such a simple but amazing brand name. And so you mentioned a
Yeah.
little bit earlier how it's your studio, but it's a brand, it's physical product, but it's kind of attached to your photography. Like, how do you frame the brand when you propose it to people?
Oh God. Depends how I propose it to people, or like, because it's like I did these pool night, like, Sure Thing Billiards Club, big ass hat. I do concerts, and then like I feature other creatives that I admire. Through like the video, I do like little day in the life videos. Just follow them around, stick a camera in their face, and make a 10-minute video out of it. Um, that was like the ultimate dream, was to like do features like that. With these creatives who like aren't on social media, but they deserve like the highlight, and like I'm interested in them because they're passionate about what they do. It was my reaction to what I hate about social, and like the performative aspects of people when it comes to how they show up on social. So I wanted to like counter that with, hey, I'm going to show you, you know, you'll see, look at some of my features, and like I'll feature this dude who like welds these little miniature figures in a studio in Brooklyn, and nobody knows that he does this, and he doesn't really do it. I don't know if it's not, he doesn't do a good job of showing his work on social, or he just doesn't care to do so. But I'm like, you have a cool story, you're a unique person, I'm interested, tell me about yourself. um so that with then I've wanted to like create product with these people who I feature, and then sell it and like do a revenue share type thing. But I have my hands in so many different places, that like it really never gets to the product point, you know? um, so how do I don't know. So like that's like the creative side of things, and then the community side of things would be like Sure Thing Billiards Club, where I initially framed that as like, hey, post pandemic, bars are struggling. I like bars. Creatives, we haven't seen each other in a while. Let's all come out together, play pool. It's like a perfect like community game, competition, chatter, banter, have a few beers, and have a fun time, get to know people.
Wow.
So that was that. And then my brain always goes like, that's the first idea. How can we think 10 steps ahead? So whether it be like making a t-shirt with a bar, and like donate the proceeds of that t-shirt back to the bar. And then from there, it's like, oh, let me make hats. It's like, oh, let me involve my friend who I met through playing pool to make the little flame ball for the hat. And then it just goes from there. And it's like, oh shit, can I make like pool uh pool balls? Can I make like Sure Thing balls? And then I see Stussy do it. I'm like, fuck. All right, Stussy did it. I can't do that. um, and then it just goes from there. And then it goes so far. And then turns out it's tough to go out every Tuesday night and play pool and drink until midnight, 1 a.m., and go to work
Mhm.
the next day. So then ensues burnout. and then, you know, it ends up fizzling off.
Mm.
So
Do you
I have
think,
like, high hopes with everything, but maybe too high of hopes.
well, so I was gonna ask, Colin, like, do you think that like your ideas as you talk, like in my
Hmm.
brain, the imagery that like
Yeah.
pulls out and extracts inside of my brain is like wild. I like envisioned
Hmm.
everything you said in this olive branch and how they're all connected and
Right.
wired together. Like, do you think you're too ambitious with your ideas and like you need to like find out like how to hone it in and just like execute like 3 out of the 7 that you just mentioned and then have it grow from there? Like, do you think that's the ultimate like
Yeah.
thing you gotta realize?
Yeah, of course. I know that. I know.
Because
Yeah.
as you spoke, I'm like, holy shit, this like ecosystem is really amazing, but like that's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
It's too much. It's too much. And then my thing is like my buddies who have helped out with pool and the nights, like to get people there or do whatever,
Mm.
I'm like, oh shit, guys, like what if we did this, that, and that? And then it's, they have their own lives and they have the shit that they care about. And my thing is like my idea is go to a place where I think I'm eventually going to have like 10 people working with me, but that ain't the case. So then I try to take too much on and that's it. So yeah, the what would work is if I focus on one thing.
Mm.
Um,
Because
yeah,
even like as you spoke, it's like you're like, oh, every Tuesday, and I'm like, well, you could have just done once a month, and it probably would have been fine.
uh-uh. No, dude, because that's my thing. And now I fucking see Gary V. I don't know, and he's like, you gotta keep posting on TikTok, like every day, upload every day. He's like, if you're not uploading every day, you're a failure. I'm like, ah. But I don't know. I don't know why I said Gary V, but I feel like that's like the typical mantra of things. If like you want something to grow in this day and age, you got to be consistent and you got to be out there. So
Yeah.
that's the
So,
mindset I took.
so I mean, everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Gary Vee fan, and
Hmm.
I think a lot of his content does get like skewed a little bit.
Yeah.
But the consistency aspect is true, right? Like,
Hmm.
somebody recently told me, they're like, I can't believe you've blogged for like every Friday for the past 42 weeks. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like a personal endeavor. I don't care if anybody reads it. It's the
Yes.
consistency for me that can build and compound over time. If I ever wanted to write a
Hmm.
book, I know I can do it because I put in the 10,000 hours. So it's like
That's it.
these things stack. It's like I'm in no rush. The pressure like of posting every day and doing all these things like that pressure, like, it exists, but it's fake. And so in my mind, I've dialed that away of like, I'm gonna live to 120 years old. I'm on nobody else's time frame but my own. And so if it
Hmm.
takes years, I'm okay with that. And I think that
Hmm.
framework might help sure thing in your like adventures forward.
I hope so, dude. I hope so. Something has to give. But I'm like kind of happy that billiards club is like over.
Mm.
Because now I think realizing that and being burnt out was a blessing in disguise because now I can focus on other things, the artist futures and shooting shows and we'll see how we can eventually hopefully monetize. But
So
for now it's just for the passion of it.
do you do you think about the future and like what you want to either attach yourself to or execute against or accomplish? Like, do you think far in advance, or are you just kind of more of a in and out of the days as they come?
I think I don't. Yeah, that's a fault. I don't think too far in advance, honestly. Um, I mean, I've been at Moleskin now for a decade.
Wow,
you know,
congratulations.
um, so people would typically think new job every 2-3 years at most, and kind of keep flipping. But no, I mean, should I think that way? I don't know. Or I've grown through the ranks at Moleskin, and I've been successful in that from where I started to where I am now within the brand. Um, which I feel proud of. Um, but I don't know. It's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not? Should I be jumping around? I don't know. But as long as I'm happy and comfortable and like, um, I'm able to do this creative work on the side and like spend time with family, like that's cool with me. I don't think about like career growth much. Um, which I should, but if like work-life balance is cool, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't think people need to. It's
Yeah.
I think that like framework in society has actually like gone down of like, oh,
Mm.
you need to have your shit figured out, you need to climb the corporate ladder, you need to. I actually don't think there's that much pressure around that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because you can make money doing a million different things today because of the internet. So
Yeah,
I
for sure.
yeah, I don't think that exists as much, and I actually really appreciate people who live more in the moment and just figure things out as they come.
Yeah, I feel like if you have too much of a plan, then I feel like you change. Like you're trying to like scheme your way to that place. Um, and that I don't know, that ain't me.
Yeah. What
So
As Colin, this has been super fun and amazing. I always
yeah.
love doing this because I learned so much about people and that I didn't know, or that people don't show or highlight about their lives, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. And it's cool to get to know you and your passions and the way your brain works a little bit. And I'm personally just stoked to see what you do create next, even if it lasts a month and you get burnt out from it, because I know that thing will be cool and people will appreciate
Yeah.
it. What
Yeah. Thank you.
what where can people find you? Where can people learn about you? Where can people reach out if they're interested in
Yeah,
tapping,
yeah, yeah.
for advice?
Yeah. I guess Instagram and if you want to like see, I don't know. Yeah, Instagram, I guess, Colin_Ridgway. And then my website, colinridgway.com, no E in the last name. But I feel like my website is just a hodgepodge of like everything that I shoot. Um, so I kind of shoot everything. And if you want to know about my work, go there. If you want to know about me, I don't know. Uh, let's go to a bar and have a beer. Um, because you're not really gonna know much about me off of like photos on the internet, but you can try. Go to like the old photos, and you'll see more of me. But if you want to see random people, street photos, then you can go to my Instagram. So that's kind
Amazing,
of
dude.
it.
Is there anything you want to leave the people with as we wrap up? Anything that's been on your brain, or a piece of advice, or anything of that nature?
No, yeah, I mean, I guess my thing lately, I'm a big like make plans and then bail on the plan type of guy. Like
Okay.
I used to love nothing more making plans and then someone bails. I'm like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean. Um, but now it's like if you make plans, stick to it because you'll feel good about the fact that you went and the fact that you showed up. It'll make your day and the other person's or whoever's day that much better.
So you're
So
you're riding
stick to
you're
your
riding
plans.
the yeah, you're riding the make plans and show up wave.
Yeah, make plans and show up. Um, yeah, like my buddy had it going away. He's moving to Copenhagen, and he had
Cool.
like like friend like loose friends with him, photo friends. I could see him like a couple times a year, and it could have been a thing where I'm just like, nah, I'm doing something. I don't know. I could have done other things, but showed up, felt good. He thanked me today. It made his day, and like feels good. But like even like those like loose friends, just show up.
I think that's an amazing way to wrap up this episode.
Yeah,
People just show up. This is another
just
episode of
show up.
an untold narrative. Colin, dude, this has
Yeah,
been amazing. Thank you so much.
yeah, man. I appreciate it, and you have a lovely, lovely day.